The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, my name is Jolene Schaefer and I'm the Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, Simplifying Commerce with Digital Payments in an Omnichannel World, presented by Jeremy Burt, Mark Larkin, and Sean Burt of VelocIT. A little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. To submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar. We will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording this presentation and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees as well as to those who registered were not able to attend. Please take a moment after the presentation to answer our one survey question. And as a reminder, SWK's 2021 Virtual Empower Conference is coming up on May 4th through 6th. Be sure to register to learn how to get the most out of your Sage ERP. The registration link will be sent in the webinar follow-up email, and I'll include it in the webinar chat. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend our webinar. We're here to help you get the most out of your software solutions and help you find an easier way to run your business by providing you software and industry knowledge, tools, and support whenever you need it. So whether you're here doing research for a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask any questions throughout the webinar. Lastly, as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. So we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Jolene. Really appreciate it. And I will share my screen here. So we should be all good. You guys see my screen?
Yep, looks great.
Excellent. Well, thank you. We're going to jump right in. This is not processing 101. This is going to be sort of a quick run through of a high-level processing solution for Sage 100 and Acumatica. We're going to demo a little bit of both. And so first off, I just want to say thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to join us, and thank you SWK for hosting another webinar here. So hopefully you guys will be able to take away a lot of information, and it'll pique your interest on solutions that VelocIT is providing. So without further ado here, we'll jump into a little bit about us. And we are a registered ISO. It's all about one call resolution. We're vertically integrated. We're your payments processor. We're the solution. We build it. We're the engineers, and we do everything to support it. So you're not going to have anybody pointing fingers the other direction. So first and foremost, I want to lead out with that. We play in a lot of different ERP arenas. We're ERP people. We understand accounting and workflows and payments. So that's what we're here to do for you guys. So I handle the sales and operations. It's a very quick decisioning process. If you guys have any customizations, any workflows that you need altered out of the box. So we'll hopefully, if you guys have any questions about the products, you'll reach out to me. So today, Sean is going to be handling the Acumatica side of it, which will be the second part of the demo. Sean is our CTO, and he has a long track record in banking. Most recently, he's been recognized as and been invited to the Developer MVP program for Acumatica, which is a great honor, and will obviously show our commitment and the level of the product. So Mark Larkin is our support director. I promise someday I'll get a picture of him, but for now, he's the guy behind the headset, and he's here to help, and he's here to be essentially our Sage expert, and he manages the support side for us, frontline contact. So those are the people here today, and hopefully we can dive right in here. So we've chosen to partner with Fiserv and CardPoint, and the reason why, excuse me, I might keep cutting out. The reason why we've decided to do so is that CardPoint provides us a sophisticated all-in-one package from authorizing the transaction all the way to settlement. Every transaction has more data with it. We optimize level 2 and level 3 on every device and everything that comes through the portal. So obviously it drives the fees down. For us, we got to come in and not only provide you guys a great solution, but we don't want it to be a lateral move, and we don't want to create a race to the bottom in this business. So there's got to be a balance and some give and take. So these are the core competencies that CardPoint provides us, and we leverage every bit of it. And you're going to see that with a couple of the demonstrations. One of the biggest right now is the EMV and contactless terminals, because it's all cloud-based EMV. And so it runs great with Acumatica in any scenario, and we're deploying literally close to 100 MID since January 1 with this solution. And then in Sage, it works great with where a lot of folks have had limitations is in the hosted environments, which is a really big part of what SWK's strategy is. So I'm going to get right to a couple success stories and give you guys some examples of why it's important to do level 3. Abbott's a pretty big recognizable name, and I just want to draw your attention to the bottom line savings percentage. That's what the effect on their processing was when taking them to level 2, level 3 optimization. Annual savings numbers are pretty extravagant. So when we come into to a lot of these folks, we're comparing them against one of the other processors in the channel. In this particular scenario, we also provide point of sale hardware. And so this isn't just a customer of ours, we're a customer of theirs. The bottom right-hand corner, 11,000 estimated savings. This is a look back based on what their processor was charging them. So these are significant numbers. On the far right column, you'll see monthly savings for this particular client. The great thing about this is that not only are we solving generally a workflow problem, but we're saving them money. So it's not, this isn't about a sales cycle. This is really an engineering process where if the product works, we're also giving you an ROI on any other ancillary, upgrades you might be doing or having done. We are, our solution again is a Fiserv product. So you'll see a Fiserv statement. Just to kind of give you guys an example of sort of it's eye-catching here. But what you've got in the top part of your screen here is a section of the credit card statement, and I want to draw your attention to one particular line item on here that we got down to 2.20%. Okay, so I guess the relationship here is they were at 2.95% when we came in, and we moved that to 2.20 with our optimization strategy. That particular month, this is 1 month, one line item, $2,272. So hopefully this gets your attention of why, and you understand now why we're leveraging the CardPoint platform, right? So it's pretty fantastic, but more than that, it's secure. The product offers, it's multi-channel, multi-industry. We have jobbers plugging into fuel pumps. We obviously leverage it for our own solutions. We can put a merchant account virtually anywhere, and the tech stack for CardPoint is just phenomenal for counter sales, retail, e-com, virtually anything. And we're going to touch a little bit on the e-com, just as far as multi-processing centers and other strategies of how to split up from a compliance and from a fraud suite protection here. So in Sage 100, which Mark is going to demo here in just a second, we have lots of different folks that we integrate with. We're going to have an announcement shortly on Lockstep Collect, and that's going to be essentially the invoicing portal. It's going to handle the AR automations. We have several customers that are doing e-commerce through various SimCloud, ROI Consulting, InSync. A lot of times the processing options require a secondary gateway, and it's being talked about in the channel as not a feature. And they're trying to suggest that the model that we use is not as clean, but all of the gateways funnel into CardPoint from a reporting and deposit standpoint. And we use the authorization front end of like typically authorize.net in conjunction with e-commerce, because the fraud protections and the process inside of Sage or Acumatica, when you run a card, you don't always have the CVV for a stored card. And if we ratchet up the fraud protections for your e-commerce cart that's connected to the same gateway, they don't have independent ways to control fraud in a single omni-channel environment. So we actually use an authorizing front end, typically again, authorize.net for the e-com. You got best-in-class fraud protection. All those transactions will come in and we can still decrypt because we run, based on payment types, we run multiple processing centers. That's a really big deal. So, and then coupled with that, we can do counter sales with our terminals. We built in a receipting engine which you can customize. You can see here, we put all of our information, different fonts, really nice. You can put logos, you can put messaging. I think the thing to highlight on the receipting process is that it's not coming from the gateway anymore. We actually send it from your domain, from your SMTP servers, and you're able to get a reply directly back to your email. And as you see in the bottom, you can add links in here to connect with you with social or any other sort of stuff. So we've even made the receipt smarter and more adaptive for your guys' needs. And each tender type, each payment type, we can do different receipting for all that stuff. So it's great to have counter sale flexibility, email receipt flexibility, and that also comes into play with another part of the solution, which is, surcharging. So some folks want to have a fee, and you need to be able to provide a receipt that has a line item on it. So building our own receipt engine allowed us to facilitate a lot of stuff that Sage themselves couldn't do in their current paradigm. So what you have on the right on your screen here is an example of our drop down. So we're going to show you what a card present payment would look like. I'm going to let this, apologize, had this queued up right in the middle. Hopefully you guys can capture this.
Once an order is entered, there are several ways to get the credit card information into the system. One, the credit card has been saved to the customer, and you pull it in through the customer account. Two, you have a brand new credit card that you want to use on the fly. At this point, you can choose to save it to AR after you've entered it, or you can make it a one-time use for this order. The information pulls in. You can make any changes to it that you want to go through, or you can make the changes at the time of the posting. You submit the card, and the information that you enter is the credit card information. This information is not saved on the Sage system. It's utilized only in the gateway, and it's utilized to create the GUID, or token, that's sent back into Sage. The information is then saved to the order. The other way that you can capture a credit card is card present. Card present means that you have the credit card in your hand and you want to run it. Again, you can decide whether or not to save that information to the system for further use or one-time use here. So I'm going to go ahead and capture the card by clicking on the button that says Card Present. At this point, it is going to a test terminal, but it will go through your terminal in the gateway, and the gateway can then process it. The information processes through the gateway. And the information comes back into Sage.
So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of an idea of what the card present experience looks like. It's always a little bit challenging to capture that in a webinar when you've got terminals and you have to put together quite a big production. But that screen, that we talked briefly about the CVV number and needing that and wanting that to match shipping and address and everything when you're doing e-com. Well, a lot of times in the card not present environment, you're just running a token over again, and the employee or the accounting department might not have the actual card. So obviously those thresholds and those fraud settings are stuff that is another part of our strategy to have multiple gateway functionality that we'll cover. So if you have questions about that, obviously reach out to your CAM, reach out to us, and we'll dive into it. But one other little tip here is that everywhere that you take a credit card today in Sage, we can take e-check. It's dynamic, it's funded next day, just like the rest of your credit cards. It's real time. It's an off capture concept, so it works just like a credit card. One of the great things too is that it all comes back through the funding report as part of your batch. Last part of that is that remember, it's a quick and dirty grab of money. Credit card, you don't know your customer. It's not a big deal. You got an authorization. You know you have the funds you can ship. We just encourage people that are using eCheck to make sure that you have a relationship. KYC, know your customer before you ship items, so it's not a captured product. It's not a back product. So that concludes this quick cover of the or overview, of Sage 100. And I'm going to have Mark demo a couple pieces, including how we pull transaction data back and what that report looks like. And he'll just show you briefly what it looks like once we do a transaction and how it's tied to the gateway. And then we'll dive into the rest of it. So Mark, if we can throw it to him.
Yeah, let me share my screen here. There we go. Can you all see that just fine?
Looks good.
Awesome. So my name is Mark. I handle support and implementation for the Sage 100 side of our business here. And what I'm going to be showing you today is just basic operation inside of the software, as well as covering some of the features. So in here in invoice data entry, I'm going to create a new invoice. Select my customer. I wish this window would go away. That would be nice. And we're going to add a line item here. I'm just going to use a miscellaneous item code. We'll just do it for 10 cents. That's where I'm live credentials here, and I'll be able to show you in the gateway. So on this screen here, I can show you that we can select a saved card inside of the system. Alternatively, we can manually enter in a card, and I also have an ACH account saved here, which we will cover in just a moment. So for this, I'm actually going to click here. We can choose the payment ID, and these are pulled off of the customer itself, so each one is saved to the customer. We'll go in there, and we'll set our amount field. Whoops. And we'll go into submit the card. Now, because I am using a saved card, I'm not going to have the ability to type in the card number because it's pulling in from the token. And you can see here that I could swap it over to eCheck, but let's go over to next. And this is the destination for the email receipt that we will receive after processing the transaction. So we'll submit here. And we can see that the payment has been authorized. We have all of our transaction information that we need. And if we go in here into CardPoint in our reporting dashboard, we can refresh this and we can see that we now have a 10-cent transaction on invoice number 77, which is right here, number 77. And if we go in here, we can see more details about the transaction, such as the batch that will be funded in, the invoice number that it came from, the email address that the receipt went to, and the status of the processing. And this will update with more cards as this flows through Card Connect system and makes its way to being funded. So with that being said, let's go back into the email here. Whoops. Well, I didn't mean to archive that, but that works too. So we can see in here that we got a receipt for that transaction that we just ran. And inside of the receipt, we have links to various websites that we have. So you can go right to your website, and this is fully customizable. So you can put your brand in here, you can put your website there, you can put links to your social media accounts, or we even have some customers who in the customizer will go here and put like promotional offers that they're having. So anywho, back to Sage. Here I have started to process a settlement report, and we will get right to that shortly. But first, what I'd like to cover is back in invoice data entry. We'll just accept this, and I want to show you an ACH transaction as well, and show you that it works just the same as a regular card transaction does. And after that, we'll do this one for 20 cents. After that, we'll get into the card not present, which is a very simple process. So here for the payment ID, I already have an ACH account stored, so we will just use that. And we'll set our deposit amount to 20 cents to capture. We'll submit that. And you can see here that it says it's on card, but that's because it's a token, and tokens will just be filled out into this card number field. But don't worry, because it is going to run as a bank account or an ACH account. So we'll submit this. It goes through. We can see that we have our authorization number and transaction ID. And if we come back into the reporting dashboard, we can see that we now have an e-check transaction line item in our grid, and we can go in here and see all those details about it. You get a little bit less information than you do with a card transaction, but it's still ultimately the same process that it is going to be going through. So back in invoice data entry, we'll close this out one more time, create a new invoice, and this will be for card not present and using our terminal that we have set up. And I'm going to run this one for 30 cents. So in here, we'll just call this test, and I'm not going to be saving this. Test is not a saved card. And so here, let me put in my name, and here we will put in 0.3. Okay, and when we go to submit, now you can see that because I'm not using a saved card and I have no token that we'll be bringing in, I can enter information into the card number line. But what I actually want to do is take this down to card present, and we can see that we have a drop down that allows us to select devices. And so we can see we have, you can name them to be whatever you want. I have them named to be a little bit more readable than the standard serial number that's on them by default. So here, I'm just going to process from my desk, and give me 1 second because I have it in the other room with my router. We'll go next, and we will submit that, and I'll be right back.
While Mark's running his card, I will mention that we have a lot of receiving options for counter sales, but you also have default terminal settings. So the terminal will default based on the user. There's a lot of really good customizations we've built in to help people with counter sales. Obviously, if it was right there, it'd be a little bit quicker if you didn't have to run across the room.
So as you can see, the transaction went through successfully. This was through the terminal. And because I couldn't show you the terminal, I should mention that what it was prompting me for was to confirm the amount. It asked me to enter in my zip code for the card, and it also asked me for a signature. So once I accept this, if we go back into the gateway and look at the reporting, we'll click on this new entry here, and we can see here that we have the signature captured here in the gateway, and all the other information that you would get if you were using a card not present, but it also tells us where it came from here. So we can see the invoice number. It came from a Bolt terminal with a EMV chip. So that about covers the processing. Let me touch on this transaction log or the settlement report. So we'll preview this. I've already got it set here on this screen in the back. You can see that I set a start date of 4/1 to 4/20. And we can see all of the transactions that have been funded in that time frame, along with all the order numbers that they came from and the transaction IDs. So and the batch that it was funded in as well.
While you have that open, the intent of this is that whether your daily workflow is to do batch summaries and move money out of clearing based on a daily, or if you need to validate the total deposit from the statement and you want to run a date range for the entire month and make sure that you see inside of Sage everything that was deposited. So it's to streamline reconciliation. Our goals this year is to execute an automation that will allow you to move your money with a product that we own called Flexi Deposit. That is, hopefully will come to the surface in our queue, but for now, this is a great alternative. And we also have a transaction report, which is the focus of the transaction report is in the event that you need to understand what happened in a system. It's not meant to validate quantities and totals, although it does total, because it's going to total refunds, voids, auths, captures. It's just to show you who exactly was processing a transaction. So we actually not only have the cardholder name, but we actually have the username from the system on the far right. So this is a useful tool in more of a forensics scenario, or did a transaction process? Do we, something was not right, or some part of the system there was a failure, again, or just history, trying to understand who did what in a system. So the transaction log is there as a tool as well. Sorry about that, Mark. Wanted to make sure we covered that.
Oh, you're totally fine. Where would you like to go next, Jeremy?
I think for all intents and purposes, you guys saw the gateway. You see what we do there. I want to touch on the fact that functionality between us and the other folks in the industry. Our system is controlled by the payment type in Sage. A lot of folks inside of Sage are only able to process functionally in Sage by company. So we set a merchant account up at the company level, but we're actually able to set a merchant account up at the payment type level. And that means that we can actually set a gateway up by payment type. So we can, under a single merchant account, we can literally provide you a web orders payment type, and all of your orders can come in and you can interact with them because we know it's all authorized.net. All your AR side of it can run through CardPoint, and you can take advantage of all the level 2 and 3 optimization and everything that we do inside of CardPoint. And again, the reason for that is we're not in CardPoint, we're not going to require any of the things that frustrate people are extended credit refunds. Extended credit capabilities is what it's called inside of authorized.net. That basically is an unlinked return or forced credit. We don't have any of those restrictions inside of CardPoint. We can allow you, because we're the processor, we're the software, we have certain validations, so we're able to allow you to process and enable forced credits from the get-go, right? So if you didn't have a previous transaction on that item, you're able to refund it. Now, we show you how to validate, how to protect, and how to manage that process to make sure that there's no embezzlement, to make sure that people have eyes on forced credits. It's expected during a certain time period that happens. But for people doing counter sales, that it's not, or cash customers inside their systems, it's very valuable and a very important feature to be able to do this. But that we don't want to enable that functionality on e-com. So on e-com, you have to make sure that it's locked down and that the ABS is enforced, the CVV is enforced, the ABS matches the shipping address. There's a lot of different use cases and different thresholds that are needed to be met on e-com. So when you want one processor to handle it all, you need to have people that have gone through a lot of these use cases, complex use cases that our Sage and Acumatica users have gone through. So that's what VelocIT brings to the table. Is we're going to provide you best practices and a way to execute on your omni-channel solution. So with that, if we can throw this back over, I will touch briefly on the Acumatica product, and then we will let Sean take it away and show you what we've done inside of, well, what Sean has done really with Acumatica. So we are a customer validated and a certified product and an early adopter of certification, and we're currently updating the newest versions and certifying them as we speak. So you'll see at Summit we have all that. Now, we have a lot more on the Acumatica side. We have a lot more depth and capabilities to do stuff outside the box. So we're validating the AcuPOS solution currently with our Bolt terminals, with our contactless solution that you see down in the lower left corner. You know, we have already shown you guys the platform, the CardPoint platform. So I just want to reiterate that, you know, from a controller standpoint, you have access to all of your deposits and funding and all of the information on your phone real time, just like you would on the dashboard when you log in. You can get alerts on forced credits or batch deposits. You can manage all your users. It's just a really fantastic platform. And if you need to do counter sales or will call, again, we execute that. So we're additionally, Lockstep Collect is going to be certified with the Acumatica product as well and integrated with our payment solution. And as I sort of move around this like a clock here, Click to Pay is a product that will be extended to Sage, but currently it's active in Acumatica. It's taking an evolution from just being able to provide email payment links and a nice user view of what they're paying and presentment. It's making its way into a full-featured portal this year. So again, we're hoping to have a lot of that flushed out when we get to Acumatica Summit in July, and we'll be able to show you our full suite of products, and you can get your hands on it. So Everything's available, ACH, the interchange optimization, all that stuff. Again, as we just briefly touched on the multi-gateway possibility and using authorize.net, that's our go-to for our second processing center for the BigCommerce, Shopify, Magento integrations. Again, it allows us to set the various thresholds. This is, as I think I've probably worn that out already, but that's really important that the e-commerce stuff is being controlled properly as you guys are moving money. So we're really excited to demonstrate Clover once we get out. It's going to be sort of a basic integration from the fact that we're going to sync your products and items, SKUs and whatnot. You're still going to have a back office view into Acumatica day one for above store reporting or to do custom back orders, things like that. If that's really the primary focus and you're more complex, we would take you into Acupos. But then if you just really want to use Acumatica and you know, sort of the most common use cases like your electrical hardware type store, supplied, you know, to the trades where they're running right out of the ERP system, building work orders or building orders in general, pick slips, but they need to take a payment. That's where our bulk terminals come in. So we have sort of this basic solution for counter sale where we manage to the trades, and then you have a full featured, which is Acumatica POS. And then in the middle is where Clover really lives, and it also gives you another device solution, and then other integrations, time clock management, all sorts of other fun stuff. So again, we are omni-channel. We do a lot of great things inside of Acumatica. And I think more importantly, we integrate with a lot of different, we play well with the industry. That's part of being validated. And I think what you know, I want to really hang our hat on and make people understand is that a lot of times when you're dealing with integrations, you know, Acumatica is in the ERP world is a fairly new product, right? And so what happens is you can validate, and that's a good first step to make sure that you're certified and validated product. But what happens is these companies are complex. You have a lot of different third parties and ISVs involved, and you need to make sure that when you're dealing, while payments are, you know, when you're certified, you're supposed to be out of the way of everything else. But what we found is that there are cases where you know, the customer and the consultant and everybody involved they don't know where things are breaking or why, or they don't understand the impacts that once they roll up another solution. And I think that's where VelocIT brings the most value in the channel is that you're not dealing with salespeople, you're dealing with engineering folks. You're dealing with people that understand the software and how it works. And we don't point the fingers the other way. We identify the problem, we identify if it's our issue or if it's another, you know, a conflicting issue with another ISV. And we get right to the source of it, and we hand you, you know, the example of how and why we know. And then we join on this is all stuff that we do as a service. So we think that it's best for all of the ISVs and all the consultants and everybody involved to work hard to demonstrate that it's, you know, where the problem exists, if there is one. I will tell you that from the most part, it's upgrade related, and you know, typically it's on the front end when we're validating in a sandbox. It's just having connections with all the players in the community is a really important part of what VelocIT has, and the relationships are really strong. So we do, as soon as I'm done here, I'm gonna have Sean sort of run in and demo the Acumatica side, but we do surcharge. It's not legal everywhere. We have people that do this in various ways, you know, to convenience fees, surcharging, reverse cash discount, and depending on where you're at, you have to set up the program correctly. We have to notify the processors, but it is something that we can do. So I want to make sure that you're aware of that. So with that, let's throw it to Sean, and let's let him show you a little bit about the Acumatica side of things. And he will demo a couple different examples of how the processing works inside of Acumatica with VelocIT.
Alrighty. Hopefully you can see my screen.
Yep, we got you.
Okay. So we'll start in here with a new sales order. Sell this guy a laptop. Most of you are familiar with the basic data entry screen here within Acumatica. So once you've made your order, basically you have a couple different options. We could just process this order and deal with the payment on the invoice side, or in many cases, what you'll want to do is do a pre-authorization on this card or on this order so that you're holding funds until you're ready to ship. So we'll go ahead and go through that process.
Sean, will you tell us what version you're demoing today?
20R2.
Okay.
So within our system here, once we've chosen our credit card method, you'll see we have a selected terminal here, and that will let us choose one of our signature, one of our EMV terminals. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and do just a regular card, and we'll choose a saved card. So this is normal Acumatica process. We'll authorize that. We'll wait patiently.
It's always great when the Acumatica servers or everything's all spun up first, I suppose.
Yep. Okay, sorry for the delay there, but you see here now we say we have an authorization and we're all good to go here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick process so we don't spend a whole lot of time on it. And we're basically creating the shipment, confirming the shipment, and creating the invoice. And we'll go ahead and come into this invoice now. And what we'll see here is that we still have the payment here. It's still authorized, and we're ready to capture the funds because we're done. So we'll capture our credit card payment. I'll go out and actually set the funds up to be deposited into your checking account. So now it automatically released that payment. So you can see that the payment is here. Its status is released. It is still open because the invoice is still open. Once we release this invoice, it will close everything, and your payment will be released, and your and the status will move to close on that payment. So that's the end-to-end process. Card present basically works exactly the same way. Go in here and create that invoice again. And this time we'll sell this guy some Legos. And we'll choose a terminal. So when we run the payment on the terminal, we can do a full capture or a pre-authorization. Process is the same for either one, and we'll go ahead and do the authorization on this one as well, because that's the normal workflow. And essentially what will happen is my handheld terminal I have here will light up, and it's asking me to confirm the amount, asking me to put the card in, asking me to remove the card, and tell me it's approved. It'll take a couple seconds for it to come back on this side. And same basic workflows here. So you'll see that it's still pending processing because it's just an authorization. We haven't captured yet. If we come through our quick process and process that order, go into our invoice. So again, we'll see here, it's waiting for an authorization or waiting with an authorization. We can go ahead and capture this. And these functionalities are in the main processing screens. So, you know, regular workflow for most people is going to be that you're going to go and capture these as part of a daily process to capture all the transactions that you ship today. You don't have to come into each order individually and do it. Once that's finished, we release, and that finalizes everything else. So, and now this will post, create all the GL entries, all that good stuff. And we'll see here that, again, it's captured and closed, everything's paid, process is finished. So the next thing I'm going to show you is our click to pay. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and say that our customer here is ordering a laptop again. And a little tab happy there. I'm going to go ahead and email the customer the sales order. And what you'll see here is we are generating and embedding a link in the email. So that link is going to take us to a payment screen. And this is outside of Acumatica. What we will provide to you is basically a branded payment screen. It'll have your logo, your name, all that good stuff. You will use your invoices coming out of Acumatica. So this is just the stock demo one. We'll go ahead and make a payment here. You gotta love the CAPTCHA. Customer fills in all the good stuff. And submits. Got our approval. Come back and we'll see that the balance changed to 0. We can no longer click on any of the payment information. Go ahead and close the screen. Back within Acumatica, there is a process screen. And this process screen, essentially, we will help you configure this, but we recommend that you have this scheduled to say, let's say, run every 15 minutes. It can run as frequently or as infrequently as you like. But essentially, this will come up with all transactions that have been paid through Click to Pay that haven't been posted in Acumatica yet. We process our payments. Again, now if on a scheduled screen, it would just process all available payments every time. Come back into our sales order, and we look at our payments, and we'll refresh the screen, and we'll see that the payment came in. It's the Click to Pay payment, and it is basically all done, ready to go. So if we went through our quick process on this one, and I'm going to actually go ahead and release the invoice as well in this case. That payment comes in as a native Acumatica payment. You can do refunds on it, you could void it, you can do all the good stuff. It handles all the card processing for you. Go ahead and bring this up. And we'll see that this invoice is closed because it was released, because all the payments were applied and everything was finished end to end. So the idea of the Click to Pay is for you to quickly and easily get the payment request in front of your customer and allow them to do the data entry. Your phone support people aren't transcribing credit card numbers into the system. They're not handling the sensitive data. Really makes things a little bit cleaner for you. One of the common requests we've had in regards to something similar here is, say that you are doing quotes within SO, and you want to have that quote funded before you are willing to start processing the order. and you don't want to have to actually create the sales order and go through all the extra steps. So the customer has the quote in their hands. We'll do a laptop again. And we'll email the quote. I'm actually going to launch it from over here. So now we see it comes through as a quote. Similar, very similar view, but you'll get a copy of the quote document instead. I'm going to go ahead and pay this one real quick. Maybe. Seriously.
Your mouse didn't want you to click on it.
Not at all. I think this was a trick one. I don't see any bicycles.
Oh, the reCAPTCHA is always wonderful.
Close that. And actually, I'll come over here and we'll refresh this screen. Now, the quote will not, the quote creates an AR payment in the background and essentially waits for the quote to be converted to a sales order and links that sales order into it. So if we come back to this quote and come under payments and hit refresh, you notice that there's not an actual payment here. What we're going to go ahead and do here is copy order and make a new sales order out of it. And when I hit save, what you'll see is that that payment we just made came in and automatically linked as essentially prepayment against that sales order. I use that term loosely. Technically speaking, and we'll actually go back here and show you, the way it applies is whatever this setting is here on the email payments info tab. And that will default in based on a setup screen. So if you're in general going to have everything come in as a payment, that's what it will default to, and you can adjust it to a prepayment as needed, or vice versa. If you want them to default to all the prepayments and adjust to a payment as needed, that's all configurable. Click to pay is configurable by order type. So the only limitation is that we require you to use a sales order behaviored order type. So in other words, you can't put it onto a RMA, you can't put it onto a credit memo or any of the other types. Basically, it's sales order and quote are the two that we require you to use. And I think that's really about what I have to show you. Again, the rest of the payments on all the other screens, whether it's invoice, whether it's AR invoice, they're all stock Acumatica functionality. So all the regular payment processes work. We've extended all the various screens to support using card-present terminals when payments are involved, as well as where appropriate, click to pay. So you can have a click to pay link on an invoice versus a sales order. You can have them on an AR invoice as well, and they'll come in and post just the same. And the same payment screen here will do all types. So if this was an AR invoice, it would actually say INV here on the column, and then whatever the invoice number was. So hopefully you got some good information here out of this demo, and if you have any questions, let us know.
Awesome, thank you. You guys can throw it back to me. I'll recap this, and we'll open it up for QA or Q&A. So on that Acumatica stuff, what I want to touch on for folks who are interested is there's a ton of the features and functionality that is built into settings inside of the VelocIT tabs. We have counter sell customers counter sell, their customers are ours, but their customers are a cash customer. They want to hide stored cards. We've extended everything with signature capture. So we're doing that right inside on pretty much any document inside of Acumatica. Again, what you'll see with our click to pay is everything's automated. Everything drops right back in as if you took it. So it's a customer initiated transaction, and you're scalable. So if you're doing, one transaction a day or 10,000 transactions a day, we're creating a process where you guys don't have to do more work, and we're able to get the compliance shifted. We want the customer to put the data in and be responsible for the credit card data. One thing we didn't show you, but you can reach out to your CAMs or your Acumatica leads, is we also have a reconciliation function where we bring in the batch settlements and we do a bank deposit, essentially an update and clear all the transactions. So for bank rec, that your deposit matches the batches, and we move all of those documents out of clearing. So again, scalability, 360-degree transaction. Doesn't matter if it's card present, card not present, anywhere it's at, we handle all that. And it's all included in the software. It's not a bunch of add-ons. And most importantly, it's all PCI compliant. There's no middleware for the terminals. We deploy them right out of your CardPoint single view dashboard. So it really is a fantastic solution end to end. And I think we're doing a great job not only supporting it, engineering it, and we're continually extending it based on customer requests. So with that, I'm going to open it up for questions and answers and see if you guys have any more that you'd like us to talk about.
Thank you, Jeremy. We'll now open it up for questions. If you have any questions, please enter them into the questions section of your GoToWebinar. And just a reminder, everyone, we do have subject matter experts here. This is a great opportunity to have your questions answered in real time. We did have a couple come in during the webinar, Jeremy. The first being, does VelocIT integrate with all Sage versions?
Yes, Sage 100 versions, not all Sage products. We're focused on the Sage 100 vertical. So hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, we go back to, I want to say, technically 2013, but so we've been doing that a long time. So, but officially, Mark says 2016, but we've got a couple people in 2015 that have been outliers that were one of our initial installs. We suggest the same model that Sage, that you're N-3 or N-2, but we support everything in Sage 100. Hopefully that answers your question.
And we have another. Can you explain what implementation looks like?
Absolutely. So it's probably a little better for Mark or Sean to handle this, but I'll give you a high level. So typically what happens is on the Sage side is once we decide to move forward, we have to have everybody out of the system. Mark, we have to have the workstations updated on the .NET side to make sure that our desktop functionality works. If you're in a server situation, it's a non-issue there. Again, terminals just have to be connected to the internet. They're not connected to a PC or anything else as far as card present terminals. And then once Mark walks through the install, that there's a server component of it, and then there's a desktop component of it. He works with the IT staff to make sure that on the front end that they can have some of the implementation started with the desktop client. And typically, most folks that are installing and implementing within an hour, depending on that .NET patch, to make sure everything security-wise is updated. We don't have to have Sage Exchange installed. In most cases, we remove that. We don't care if it's there, but we remove all that, and we run a spin program and update all your credit card information. By that, it's actually clearing out the old credit card information, and everything has to be retokenized. So you do just want to be upfront with everybody. There is a conversion process for Paya that's in the works, but today the tokens do have to be purged and the credit card data has to be updated. And so that's basically in a nutshell what happens, but it's all handled. It's included. There's no cost to any of the install, training, software, support. It's all handled by us. It's all included.
Awesome. So that looks like all the questions we have. So give me 1 minute as I take back screen control.
Perfect.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Jeremy, Sean, and Mark, for your informative presentation and for taking the time to be here today. And as a final reminder, don't forget to register for Virtual Empower to learn how to extend the value of your Sage ERP on May 4th through 6th. The registration link will be included in the webinar follow-up email. Thank you everyone for attending our webinar. Have a wonderful rest of your day.